Hey guys, I am so excited to present to you the first pass 3D model for your home in Palo Alto. I am really excited by this amazing craftsman home I have to show you. So without further ado, let's just quickly orient ourselves. We've got the back of the property with the alley along here. You can see a little car pulled into the queuing spot with the gate open there. We've got the front of the property here. Now, I'm not showing any landscaping. I'm not showing any paths other than just a straight shot here because it's really not the focus of the architecture or the focus of the meeting, right? We want to talk about the house. But the only other tree or vegetation I'm showing is that very large pair of oak trees right here in the side. If you like this direction, I'll keep sprucing up the model and adding more detail, but I want to get your input on what I've got so far. Now, based on your input of wanting to do a craftsman style home, that's what the floor plan I laid out was meant to support that, and I've got a really, really beautiful home for you. Let's go ahead and go down to street level here. And let's go ahead and cross the street. Now, what I hope you're seeing right away is a very charming craftsman style home that is very much influenced by the images that you shared with me. The blue and honey color tone with the white trim, the curved elements of the roof, and the specialty window above the entry door. The craftsman details like brackets and these beefy columns and built up guardrails, all of this looks and feels very craftsman to me. And we could certainly iterate and tweak certain things like whether or not we want to see both the header trim and the sill trim at the windows, and maybe there's one or two other grill patterns we want to consider for the windows. But overall, I love this. I think this is fantastic. It's a great start. So let's go through the outside of the house. What we're seeing here is a front path leading right up to the entry zone. And the entry zone incorporates a specialty curved roof clad in metal roofing. And this thing is curved and it also slopes down. So it has more of a street presence when you're across the street. You see it more than if it were just completely flat, but we're coming down right to a 12-foot height right here. This is a 12-foot height limit. Any taller than that in Palo Alto is going to make the whole area here count as floor area. And since we're right at your floor area limit, we are going to set this limit to 12 feet and slope up from there to give that curve a little more presence. And I like it. It's a special element. It's perhaps a little more squashed than I would otherwise want to see if I wasn't limited to 12 feet, but I think it's okay. I don't think it in itself warrants lowering the finished floor height from 2 feet above grade down to 1 foot above grade. As you'll recall, per your request, and because of the low water table for the basement, the finished floor is 2 feet up above grade rather than 1 foot. That has the effect of kind of squashing everything underneath the daylight plane. And if you look at the daylight plane, if I turn that layer on, you can see that the front left bedroom here is designed right up to that daylight plane. But the bedroom does take advantage of the daylight plane protrusion allowance to allow for some cross gable inside the room to allow for pretty nice ceiling experience, even though the wall might be a little bit low right here. And then the other space that's protruding through the daylight plane is the stair tower. So I'm not really concerned about this at all. I know that because the stair landings are actually way down here, this is going to be an amazing amount of height. But one thing I want to make sure when we're looking out windows at stair towers is that we've got something great to look at. So while I know this high window at the stair is perfect because you'll be looking up at blue sky, I'm going to reserve whether or not we need this window at the lower area here because I'm not quite sure what the view is going to be like directly across. So I want to reassess this. On the one hand, we could just frost the window and not worry about the view out of it. On the other hand, we could omit the window entirely, but I kind of feel like, oops, I kind of feel like without the window, I don't know. I mean, take it or leave it. It's a side elevation you're never really going to see, but for the purpose of bringing more light into the basement and into the living area, I say let's keep that window for now. We'll assess it later. But let's keep touring around the home. So you'll see from the front here that this bedroom is a little bit lower in roof height because of the daylight plane. We don't have as much of a daylight plane issue on this side because we have a much wider side setback thanks to the trees here. So this gives it the effect of a sort of interesting stepping pattern for these three gable roofs at the two bedrooms and here at the very grand, very tall central hallway area. But this is an amazing entry sequence. When you come in through this door here, you're in the two-story height area, but this is a really expressive vaulted ceiling in this area with a very tall window. It's got a rather high sill height relative to the other rooms because we've got to make room for this roof structure. But when we step inside, now we're going to step inside a very rough 3D model. This is not really meant for appreciating the interiors. But when we look down the hall, we can see that the door's a little bit off center because the hallway's a little bit off center from the front door. But once we get in around the ADU closet here, we see this open two-story volume area with that tall skinny window centered on this special arched window that matches the arch of the entry feature with the door. This is the latch side, so the hinge is over here, and then we have this full height side light here. I made a change to the floor plan. This will now be the closet area for the JADU, and this will be the open bench area adjacent to the living room. That way the living room just gets to appreciate the bench and the artwork in the mirror, and it's just a much cleaner expression. The idea I had of having the closet come out in the space just looked quite terrible, especially once I developed the central arch feature. It needed this extra side light to balance out the door, and so I had to carve away this bench area at the entry. But I think it's great. And from upstairs, oh boy, this is not an interior model yet, right? From upstairs, when we approach those two front bedrooms, I think it's a great overlook. Isn't this fantastic? Let's get eye level with this guy. When you really approach this guardrail and look down, I think that's really maybe seizure inducing right now, but I think that's really special. Now, of course, none of this interior structure is accurate. All of this is really, really rough. But one thing I did want to call out to you was that because of the daylight plane, I did have to also introduce an additional couple of steps up to the master suite level. So the JADU and the living area below, the living room below, these two spaces, I believe now have 9-foot ceilings rather than 10. But the dining room, the great room, they still have 10-foot ceilings. Okay. Well, I keep hinting at this other side. So let's keep exploring this other left side. So we're seeing the living room windows here. We're seeing one of our first glimpses of a light well. Now, this is not per se the final railing, right? This is just a mock-up of a very thin, light metal railing that will let a lot of light in and not obscure your view very much. But what we're seeing again is the stair tower here. We've got this should be blue, excuse me. What we're seeing here is the master bath, and I've opted to show a false chimney here to combine all the plumbing vents into a single stack here that will clean up your roof line a little bit. This is optional. We can look at omitting this or keeping it, but I think it's nice. An array of dining room windows at the dining room. And we're seeing the master balcony here and a change in material from the blue siding to the tan shingle siding. The master suite has a balcony door that opens out onto the balcony. And then at the back, we're seeing a very expansive, very craftsman inspired covered porch area. And, you know, it was feeling very Greek to me before without this central fire pit area. This could just be a seating element or a built-in planter, perhaps. This doesn't have to be a propane tank style fire pit, but I do think it's a really interesting element to help break up the two stair elements that flank it. And to act as a fall protection from the porch to this below grade patio, I'm opting to show just a little bit of a uh, storage area, built-in storage area with countertop space above to be used as a buffet. People might sit on it at this height, so it might be wise to build in a little bit of a guardrail at the back of it. Um, but I like the idea of there being a little bit of a built-in here between the porch and that below grade patio down below. So below grade patio is not fully mocked up. I think I could fit in a little bit more glass here at the nook and at the below the basement dining area. And don't have all the guardrails mocked up, but I think this is a very open area. There's a lot of light that's going to come in here. And I think it's okay. For me, it's comfortable, driving and pulling up into the garage here. Adjacent to this, we can have the retaining wall come up and act as a wheel stop. And that height might as well just continue and become the first step for this bridge element that leads into the kitchen area. This is the kitchen, the garage, and there's the breakfast nook there. So this step and this bridge element is working really nicely. And I don't have a window yet here into the gym space, but I will. We'll put one there. Get plenty of light underneath this little bridge. But this is really beautiful. I think this is a very nice house. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on the materials, the basic premise for the windows. You'll notice that there's not a lot of window types. That's intentional. The fewer window types we have, the more cohesive the house will look. So we've got the door from the garage and the window into the mudroom above the sink, the door leading into the ADU. And I've given the JADU, I've given the JADU a nice little covered porch area. So there'd be a gate right here. Oh, sorry. There'd be a gate right there, and there's mechanical units right here, unfortunately. That's okay. At least they're covered and protected, and there's a nice little covered porch area here. I think this is nice. I would certainly put some plants right here and maybe a little mat for shoes. And here we're seeing the JADU windows with the bedroom above. And the bedroom above on this side, though it's not limited by ceiling height, it's still going to have the same daylight plane protrusion on this side, but it's not nearly extreme of a protrusion, but it's still compliant and brings in just a little more oomph and allows for a little bit of a higher amount of light to come in and flood this room. But I think it is a very nice callback to these two here. Before we end the video today, I just wanted to quickly touch on these last four windows at the upper level. Obviously, these are the master suite. These are the low egress windows. These are some high windows here that could also crank open, but they're at least 60 inches above the floor, so these are above the bedwall. This window here is for the master closet, and then this window here is for the kids' shared bathroom, and it's got a higher than average header height, but it's meant to align with the rest of the windows that are now, if you recall, the master suite is 1 foot taller finished floor height than the kids' bedrooms and the bathroom here, due to the daylight plane. Well, guys, I am really eager to hear your thoughts on this first pass design. Can't wait to meet with you and talk about your thoughts. Thank you.